நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராறும் மதனமென திகழ்வரத கண்டமிதில் எக்கணமும் அதில் சிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை முதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறம் வியந்து செய்ய மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय. मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय. असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. नमो हरिहन्तानं नमो सेदानं नमो आयर्यानं नमो वजायानं नमो लोये सवसाहुनं हेसो पञ्चनमोकारो सर्वपापपनाशनो मङ्गलानं चे सर्वेसिं परमं हवै मङ्गलम् परमं हवै मङ्गलम्.
Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to one and all present for today's program. I take the privilege in welcoming you all to the Day 5 of the Industry Connect and Knowledge Enrichment Program on the theme Powering Progress in Pharma, organized by Shri Shankar Sundarbai Shashun Jain College for Women in collaboration with Institute of Cost Accountant of India. The topic for today's discussion is Best Practices in Pharma. In this connect, now I feel honored in welcoming CMA Mihir Narayan Vyas sir, who is having practical exposure of around 13 years in the field of cost and management accountancy and wide exposure in the area of statutory cost accounting prevailing in India in pharmaceutical and engineering sector. He started working with Mr. CMA Shri during his studies, and since then he has been actively involved in various assignments pertaining to management information systems, cost audit, cost compliances, etc. He has also done diploma in information system security audit and has also done expert study in diploma in forensic audit, which is a post qualification after CMA course. He is closely involved in cost audit assignments of PSUs, Fortune 500 companies and few MNCs. He is also closely involved in development of MIS system, costing system, inventory control system, etc. Sir was a committee member and the chairman of Baroda chapter of Cost Accountants of India. He is the secretary of the Western India Region Council, ICMAI. Sir, I request you to deliver the keynote address.
Thank you so much, madam. Good evening, everyone. Before we start, I extend my deepest sympathy to those who suffer from heavy flood in the Chennai. Bottom of my heart, I extend my deepest sympathy to everyone, sir. Also, I extend my warm regards to CMA TCS Prasad sir, Central Council member, CMA Sukrut Mehta sir, who is a technical faculty for today's sessions, Shri VB Ganesh Babu sir, President Laghu Udyog, Dr. C. Padmavathi ji, Principal of SS Jain Women's College, and my friends and coordinator of this event, CMA Ravisankar sir. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, can you, okay. Uh, Pharmaceutical industry, one of the best industry in the Indian economy, sir. They contribute lot of things, lot of energy, lot of employment to not only the India, the whole world. Sir, you can see in today's in India, more than 3,000 companies are engaged in the pharmaceutical industry, and approx market cap is 15 million USD, which is day by day is improving, and by 2030s, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi vision is it is goes to up to 130 billion as per Wikipedia data. Sir, today we explored the pivotal role of cost accounting in enhancing financial efficiency and strategic decision making within the pharmaceutical sector. Sir, this pharmaceutical industry you can divide it in two parts. Before 2000, after 2000, after 2000. Before 2000, it is almost 500 companies are engaged in the pharmaceutical. But after 2000, after the industry privatization, pharmaceutical growth is tremendous. You can see some of the MNCs, Indian MNCs working in the globe. There are Sun Pharmas, Alembic Pharmas, Cadilas. We have seen they are working in the multiple locations in the world, in the Europe, in the US, in the Canada. So pharmaceutical sector is a key sector in the Indian economy, sir. Sir, these are the some best practices you can see. Good manufacturing practices. Sir, in the good manufacturing practices, there are some quality standard facility and the equipment, personal training and documented record keeping are required, sir. Maintaining clean and hygienic and suitable manufacturing facility is also required for the good manufacturing practices. Second is the research and development, sir. Sir, I have seen so many research and development wings are developed in the Hyderabad and Sikandrabad. And government is also supporting like anything in the research and development. So research and development area is one of the key area in pharmaceutical company. Regulatory compliance. Sir, we know the US FDA. US FDA is applicable most of the pharmaceutical company who are exporting goods to the US. So regulatory compliance is one of the key aspects for pharmaceutical company. Quality control and assurance. But in the quality control, you can set up the processes. This is very must to approve the goods, not only for India, for exporting also, and supply chain management. Sir, inventory management is one of the important tool for supply chain management. We know the shelf life of the product of the pharmaceutical company in the API and in the formulation also. So inventory management is also one of the supply chain management. These are the some important area of cost accounting. They can play important roles. Sir, cost audit is compulsory in the pharmaceutical company since very long. There are so many cost accountant working in the field of pharmaceutical company. I personally know Sukrut sir is also there. Our Alwadi sir, Neeraj sir is also there. These are the some key areas where cost accountant play important role, sir. In the decision making, we know, sir. We after data mining, we can give the MRP to the customers. We can know the project is viable. So decision making very important. Cost accountant keep very important pivotal role to pharmaceutical industry. Sir, cost control and cost efficiency is very important. Sir, for set up the standard cost versus actual cost, this will control the cost elements for the company, sir. And this will save the cost of the company. Risk management also important. Compliance and regulatory requirement. is also very important things. These are some areas where optimizing operation for efficiency and compliance, sir. Sir, utilize technology. I personally know there are some WMS system applicable to two or three Fortune 500 company. I personally see it is very wonderful WMS system. You can manage your inventory stock. Not only inventory, you can manage your procurement to pay cycle. It is very important tool, sir. So you utilizing technology is one of the key factor in the pharmaceutical company. Data analytics, communication, collaborations, standardize the process. It is also very important, sir. Without standardizing process, you cannot produce batch-wise costing and other costing, sir. Training and education to the production people. Not only production is also required for finance people also checklist and template. There are some important government schemes which help the progress of pharmaceutical industries. In this, cost accountant play a very pivotal role. I have seen some of the cost accountant working in the incentive scheme of government, sir. I have mentioned only 5 or 6, and there are so many schemes available in the India, sir. One of the scheme is Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Sandhuti Pariyojana. It is available for generic medicines. Sir, we have seen Jan Kalyan Kendra over the so many cities, sir. This scheme is Pradhan Mantri PMBGI scheme. Sir, National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, sir, they control the pricing. They control the regulatory price for all the medicines and other things. Product link incentive. It is one of the best schemes in the pharmaceuticals company, sir. We have seen China is a hub for the API. India is also manufacturing API, but China is a hub for API. So government has come up with the PLI scheme. It is very wonderful. It is motivating the domestic manufacturer all over the India, sir. And Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, it is also one of the good scheme. I have seen so many MSME working in the India in the pharmaceutical. There are so many state government subsidies also covered in the Atmanirbhar Bharat and new drug and clinical trial rules. These are the few schemes available for pharmaceuticals company. There are various departments which are working in the pharmaceutical. We can overview the some of the department: marketing, the R&D department, regulator, purchase, stores, productions, lab, quality control, packing, engineering, environment, HR, admin, account, logistics. These are the essential department for the perform of the company. Cost accountant also play very important role while preparing the MIS, also working in the top position of the company. These are the some key areas. You can see the cost variances. You can compare the budgetary cost versus actual cost. This will help to reduce the cost. Also, cost allocation issue, operational inefficiency. Pharmaceutical company working in the batch production company. So, operation efficiency is very important. There are recovered solvents is also reusable product. These things are take a care at the time of the production. Supplier cost, compliance issues, resources utilization, cost of the quality, risk manufacturing, benchmarking, and comparative analysis. These are the things when we can help to the industry. In the conclusion, a comprehensive approach of cost accounting in the financial industry involves not just identifying area of improvement, but also implementing actionable recommendations that foster efficiency, compliance, and strategic growth. Also, continuous monitoring and adoption of changing industry dynamic will be key to sustaining cost-effective operation and maintaining competitiveness in the market. Sir, we have seen so many cost accountants heading not only department but the company. These are the some example of the cost accountant who are working in the top position. Sir, Abbott Pharma, Abbott Pharma, Sridhar sir. Also, Jyoti Sarafa is a director of finance in the Lupin. Ramesh sir he's a executive director and global CFO. Jim Laboratory, Sam Mohan sir. IPCA Laboratory, Sunil Kamal sir. In Alembic Pharma, I personally know Mitanshu sir, who is the vice president of international market and head of finance. In the Torrent Pharma, Sujil Memon sir. HLL Lifestyle, Dr. Geeta Sharma. Biocon, Sri Vidya madam. there are the few names, but I'm sure that there are so many cost accountants working in the HOD position in the pharmaceutical company. In the end, thank you so much, TCS Prasad and Ravisankar sir, for inviting me. It's a wonderful initiative connecting the industry. Wishing you all the best and thank you so much for inviting me. Jai Hind, sir.
Thank you, Mihir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable speech. Now, we are moving on to the technical session on the topic Best Practices in Pharma. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. CMA Sukrut Mehta. Sir has graduated MCOM, FCMA, CMA USA, Six Sigma Green Belt, PGPMAX from ISB Hyderabad. He was the youngest to pass cost accounting in India at the age of 19 years with all India level ranks in intermediate and final examinations. He is the chairman of CAMAP, an association with 6,000 practicing cost accountants. He is an expert and a partner of Kirit Mehta and Co., a 40 years old management accounting firm and a visiting faculty for pricing strategy in pharma at NMIMS, SPJIMS, ISB, IBS, DPCO, and cost audit for over 70 pharmaceutical companies, 25 medical device companies, and industry associations, including Organization of Pharmaceutical Producer in India. Once again, I welcome you, sir, for this knowledge sharing program. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. I must say, Mihir, very well done in setting the context. I will not now dwell much into the financial sides or how cost accountants can contribute with the traditional methodologies that have very well been highlighted by Mihir already. We will get a bit more technical into pharmaceuticals and what it means for the pharmaceutical industry going forward. Within the next 20-25 minutes that I have, about 30 at most, I would like to look into the recent developments in the pharmaceutical industry. What are the financial trends and challenges for finance professionals? What are the cost reduction and frameworks and tactics that have worked over a long period of time? And what are the pricing and other regulatory challenges that we face today and that we will be looking into the various quarters that follow us in the next 2 years. Now, if you look at the recent, yes, sir.
Sukrutji, you can take even more time because we are very eager to learn from you. So it's not 35 minutes. We can even go up to 45 minutes. I think the 45-50 organizers will agree.
Fair enough.
Sure.
So I'll take my time. I'll deep dive into a few more topics if it pleases. Nice. I don't mind talking up till 10 in the night on pharmaceuticals. That's something that's natural for me.
And also on the what do you call the best practices, what is being followed, because you are into many
most
companies,
definitely.
So everybody will be benefited by that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So just to quickly get through what we have seen in the past couple of years, we've seen barcoding come into India for the first time, and that has been a revelation. It was applicable only to the top 200 brands, and then it was expanded to 500. And we expect that out of 80,000 brands in India, barcoding would be eligible for all the brands by the 2025 end. And this is going to be a very important factor in reducing counterfeits in India. And that's going to be a very important quality as well as security perspective measure that the government is taking. The second is trade margin rationalization. And this now goes into healthcare. And forgive me if anybody is here from the healthcare industry, but from the hospital management side. But if you look at hospitals, they are probably the most lopsidedly driven companies in the world, because you make a ton of money, especially in India, when it comes to your pharmaceutical sales, and you lose money pretty much in every other department. So it is cross-subsidization to a large extent. The pharmacies that are run by hospitals are by far the most profitable cost center that you can find in a hospital. And that is where trade margin rationalization has been brought in by the Indian government. I'll give the example of one product, which is meropenem. It is something that was used and is still used in all ICU cases. and is kept on standby for every operation in India. Meropenem was being sold by pharmaceutical companies at a price of between 250 to 400 rupees per vial, and it had an MRP of nearly 5,000. This year, after coming into price control, the MRP has been reduced to 1,200 for 1,000 mg and around 800 for 500 mg. This is the power of trade margin rationalization. You are only reducing what is the valid amount of, you're only estimating what is the valid amount of margins that trade should make, and all of a sudden the benefits to end patients is tremendous. You will see trade margin rationalization come out even more aggressively for all non-scheduled or all non-price controlled products over the course of the next 2 years as a policy. And there is only one distinction here: the definition of a low-cost non-scheduled formulation that might be added in the trade margin nationalization policy that is expected to come in. And the low-cost non-scheduled formulation is expected to be at around 100 rupees. We do not know what it exactly will be, but this will be a very important policy decision that we expect to see in the next year and a half, maybe two. The National List of Essential Medicines has just been revised last year. It's usually to be revised every 5 years. It was delayed slightly because of COVID. And this basically lays the framework of which are the medicines which are essential for the Indian diaspora and the disease burden in India. And we've covered in some detail later as to what was a criteria for inclusion in price control and what is a criteria for deletion from price control as far as the Indian pharma industry is concerned. I'll not get into too much details with ISO SAP, which is a new standard that is going to come out for the regulatory side. We have multiple monographs coming in the Indian Pharmacopoeia. The Indian Pharmacopoeia, for those who may not be very familiar with the term, is the body, the Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission, which approves each and every formulation for a specific indication or for use to treat a specific disease. And this is a very important document, and it not only enables doctors and healthcare professionals to identify which are the best drugs to prescribe and in what quantity, but it also comments on what are the contradictions that you can see if you prescribe one drug with another. The next is the Medical Devices Price Control Order. It is the next set of control in terms of pricing that we expect. It is closely related to pharma because of the rise of something called as integrated devices. Now, integrated devices are basically medical devices which are drug eluting, such as stents, such as your synchro breathes, which is breath actuated inhalers. These medical devices which are having a drug that it is going to provide as well is going to be the future, and we are seeing more and more drug devices which are integrated. Insulin pumps being a prime example of it in terms of adoption in India. Now, Sugam and IPDMS have been two revolutionary portals as far as the Indian pharma industry is concerned. Sugam is run by the regulatory body, which is CDSCO, and IPDMS is run, or the Integrated Pharmaceutical Database Management System, is run by the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority for pricing. The two will soon start speaking with each other, and if you have a retention license that is pending, you will not be able to increase the price of that product. Now, this is the kind of control that the government is seeking, and you will be able to monitor what is your product price and if it is scheduled or non-scheduled, and the government will themselves prompt if you have undertaken a mistake in pricing, which is going to be very essential in estimating which are the products which are under price control versus not. More importantly, it will help reduce litigations and mistakes in pricing that the industry may look at for the lack of better knowledge. The special one-time settlement scheme, or a Vivad Se Vishwas scheme that has been prominent across direct and indirect taxation, is also being set out for both the regulatory as well as the pricing aspects of the pharmaceutical industry. To give you a number, today we are looking at around 5,000 crores that is there on contingent liability in the books of the pharmaceutical industry. And this is only the public players. If you go to private players, it would obviously be more. So this special one-time settlement scheme is something that the industry is waiting for, and we'll be very happy to have it. The next is the patient data and privacy rules. India is one of the first countries to come up with specific patient data and privacy rules. And this is going to be a game changer when it comes to sharing of digitalized health records. And this is one of the important parts that we will look forward to, especially from a fintech moving to a health tech, moving to a wearables or any kind of a device which monitors your health information and then uses it. Because of the patient data and privacy rules, just to give you an example, if you are wearing an Apple Watch or your Fitbit, your information is absolutely secured in India. It will not leave servers of India. It will not be sold, and no insurance company can make use of it, or no other doctor or anybody can make use of your data till the time you don't explicitly allow it to be shared. And there cannot be a blanket approval for sharing information. For every information to be shared, a new approval will be required. So this is one of the more revolutionary. India is usually a follower in terms of policy. With the patient data and privacy rules, we've actually set a benchmark for the world as well. The next is the Uniform Code for Pharmaceutical Marketing Practices. It is in the draft stage till date. So is the e-pharmacy rules that are in place, that are drafted. We expect both of these to be commissioned in the next year, and these will lead to the last loop around doctor gifts, and effectively the nexus that is perceived and is practically true as well to a large extent between pharmaceuticals, doctors, and healthcare professionals. So this will be an important part as well of how pharma will be shaped going forward. The last part is the PLI scheme. Now, in addition to the PLI scheme, we've also got a research-linked incentive scheme come in, and this on both sides is going to promote R&D, which took a significant hit after 2019's change in taxation policy. And we are also going to see the PLI scheme help out with manufacturing of drugs in India, which currently were being imported from outside. So these are schemes that are long-term, but they have already started to show certain benefits. Now, if you look at the last 20, 30 years, you will find that many MNCs have actually merged or vanished out of India. And only a few exceptions remain, which is GSK and Sanofi. And to a large extent now, I would actually go on and say that Indian MNCs or Indian companies with global footprints, with global standing is what is the taste of the day. We are seeing a lot more competition to the global players with patents, with availability of drugs, with execution of developed markets, regulated markets being captured by Indian players. And we are experiencing a hyper growth right now in exports. And this is expected to continue with more and more patents going off, products going off patents in the next 5 years. Now, to give you another example here of what will be the total impact, IPA is the Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance. It was started barely 20 years back by Mr. D.G. Shah and is currently being run by Mr. Sudarshan Jain. Its 25 members generates nearly 80% of the exports and 63% of the domestic products being sold in India. And all of these are Indian companies. Well, Abbott is debatable, but all the others are definitely Indian companies. And this is where we are seeing that India's aspiration is to go beyond the pharmacy of the world and be the research and development head of the world as well. If you look at the current scenario in the pharmaceutical industry, one thing that still plagues us is the amount of imports that we have of bulk drugs from China. And the other important factor to note in here is this is not just the final API. There's also the key starting materials, there's also the inorganic materials. And when we look at immunoglobulins, or when we look at biosimilars, or we look at biologicals, the key material is still being sourced from China. There are certain archaic rules. I will call them archaic today because they are not really thought as to, there hasn't been adequate thought as to what can be the repercussion of it. But today, India is importing a large part of blood and plasma, which it can actually source very easily from its local supplies. Unfortunately, blood banks are not allowed to part with plasma for making products which will help the Indian diaspora. So today, India imports blood plasma from Korea, from China, certain parts of Germany, and we are not able to do the same by Indian local manufacturing. While we export nearly 16 billion worth of pharmaceutical products, and again, this number changes every quarter and it keeps on going up, which is a very good thing. It is also important to note that we were extremely competent and, more importantly, reliable partners for the global supply chain when it came to COVID and managing the pandemic globally. If you look at all the talk of China plus one, why hasn't there ever been a talk of India plus one when it comes to pharmaceuticals? And the need and the necessary reason for that is the Indian pharmaceutical industry is doing that good a job. When you look at now getting into the the financial trends in the pharmaceutical industry, right? We've seen a lot of mergers and acquisitions. We've seen PEs become very active. Private equity players have become more active in the Indian pharma industry in the last 3 years than they have been in the IT space in India. And that is something that has been unheard of. And the next part of it has been cost control through FP&A. If you go back even 7 to 10 years, you'd not find an FP&A role in the Indian pharmaceutical industry. That division did not exist. Today, almost every major player has an FP&A team, and the forecasting modules that they are utilizing is world class. We are able to forecast what will be the demand generation and what will be the cyclic nature of products, and especially antibiotics and coagulants and others, in Mexico and in Latin America while sitting in India. And that is the benefit of having all kinds of systems being put in place, and the Indian pharmaceutical industry being so vigilant with respect to its cost control, but more importantly, understanding where is its next sale going to come from. The adoption of generics has been both a boon as well as a curse for the Indian pharmaceutical industry. I'll say a boon because it has allowed us to enter various markets and grow very, very quickly. It has also been a curse because we've not really been able to move beyond the tag of a generics player. And soon you will find the Torrents, Ipcas, Zyduses, and Intases of the world come up with products which will compete with global MNCs. Vertical integrations is something that has sped up, but it is something that was inexistent 5 years back. If I were to talk of a vertical integration, I will give you examples of diagnosis. Now, when Torrent gets into diagnosis, they will basically be able to sell Shelkel because they know that you have a vitamin or calcium deficiency. When Pathkind is a new joint venture that is coming out, Mankind is basically looking to get diagnosis to tier 2s and tier 3s and to villages, which is also the main area in which they are selling. If you look at Mankind sales, their predominant strength lies beyond the metros and tier 1s. And that's where Pathkind has been expanding a lot. So that is the vertical integration. By vertical integration, we do not mean that the pharmaceutical industry will go up owning hospital chains or colluding with doctors. We are going into diagnostics. The industry is going to move into integrated devices. It's going to get into wearables. A good year is going to be 2024, where till today in India, if you want a continuous glucose monitoring system, or you are a diabetic and you want to check your blood sugar levels very frequently, you only have one option, which is Abbott's Free Libre. In the next year, we are expecting 2 more options, which are the only other 2 options available globally, which is Dexcom and GlucoRx, both entering into the market. Now, this not only portrays how the world is starting to see Indian market as more than just 1 billion people, but as people who are actually willing to go up this value chain. It is also giving more options to the Indian players to first imitate and thereafter innovate on the medical devices and the integration of the integrated devices as well as the wearable space. The ease of access and benchmarking, this has been something that has been very unique to the pharmaceutical industry. No other industry has this much data on what my competitors procuring and at what price as the Indian pharmaceutical industry does. RODTP, it's basically the replacement of the earlier MEIC, or it is an incentive that is expected to be given to the Indian pharmaceutical industry. For anybody who's working in a company right now, if your company has paid taxes, input taxes on electricity duty, on fuel surcharges, on any other item that you have bought, right, and you have not been able to claim a credit of it in GST, you should actually make sure you go through the format that the Department of Commerce is asking for under RODTEP and submit it by the 15th of December. Within this week, we will need to, when I say we, I mean the pharmaceutical industry, we will need to represent to the Ministry of Commerce that we deserve more than 0.8% as rebate, because that's what our cost is. And that and this is not rebate with respect to this is not rebate with respect to any incentive or any subsidy that the industry would be receiving. These are taxes that we have been paid, which have been hidden from plain sight or from GST, that are still eligible to us, and we are only going to be able to claim them as a percentage of the export value that we generate for the country. So it is a sincere plea to everybody here. If you can shore up your financial muscle and take out time over the next week, please make sure that you submit the RODTEP submissions to the Ministry of Commerce within the scheduled timeline of 15th of December. The Indian industry today is looking to transition from volume to value. If you look at Mansukh Mandavia, who's the minister in charge of both the Department of Pharma and the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, he keeps on saying, I want you to supply in an envelope what you had been supplying in a container. It's a very large thought, and that's a thought that he has gotten from our Prime Minister, and that is something that people have started working on, but it is easier said than done. India will not only supply the containers, but we also want to supply the envelopes that will allow for the transition from volume to value. Now, does every company need to make this transition? Absolutely not. We still need the volumes. You need antibiotics, you need vaccines, you need products that are available in huge volumes and capability to produce those volumes. But ultimately, we need to move also up the supply chain and add more value-added products. The most recent product in oncology that was launched by Roche is priced at 3 lakh rupees a vial. How many people can afford rupees 3 lakhs per vial? So then you are asking for a generic version of that product. Well, that generic version of that product needs to be a biosimilar because it's a biological product. And getting biologicals and biosimilars approved is equally tedious as getting a new chemical entity designed, because you're effectively trying to make a protein or isolate something from the ground up. And this is the challenge in front of the Indian pharmaceutical industry today. I'll not get into the recording of marketing expenses and the issues surrounding 194R. For everybody within the industry, that's pretty straightforward. And if required, I've shared an entire slide in the additional slides, which is purely on the recording of marketing expenses, what to record in terms of endorsements, how to record in terms of conferences, what are the quantum of gifts you can give to a particular doctor, and what is the bang for the buck, and how do you evaluate marketing expenses. All of this is available, and I'm pretty sure Rakesh will have this slide shared as well. Now, getting into the second theme for this talk, it's a cost reduction frameworks and the tactics that we can utilize. Now, these cost reduction frameworks have actually stood the test of time, and they've gained more and more precedence over the last 3 years. As soon as COVID went, people realized that we'll not be having the same volumes as we were used to for the 15-20 month period, where everybody was producing any product that they wanted to at breakneck speed, and that product was finding demand. Once the abnormal demand dried up, people went back to cost reduction frameworks. And this year, the first thing that you need to do is eliminate wastages. If you've reduced your usage, then you will be able to automate. Once you've done your automations, then you should be able to optimize your processes. Now, let me give you 3 specific examples here. Everybody looks at specialty chemicals as the holy grail of understanding if a recession is coming. And that is the reason for that. The reason is that specialty chemicals is the last, if you're talking of a recession, right, it would first hit capital goods, and the last industry that it would hit would probably be specialty chemicals. And today, specialty chemicals have had 2 back-to-back bad quarters. And the reason for that has been purely the lack of demand in Europe, the lack of demand in India, and the lack of demand in all manufacturing facilities, including pharmaceuticals. Now, it is very important to note that there are 3 global trends that are driving this. A, destocking. Earlier, the CSVs, the Walgreens, the Tesco's of the world, the Aldis of the world all of them would hold on to 6 months of inventory of antibiotics, 6 months of inventory of testing kits, 6 months of inventories of vaccines. Flu shots would be delivered in the month of March to be consumed in the month of October. Now, with the rising interest rates, that is out of question. So all companies to whom we were exporting, right? We were exporting $16 billion worth. That entire supply chain basically came to a standstill and said, you know what? I don't need to hold on to 6 months of inventory. I will give you an order 3 months out and you have to supply me with 1 month remaining within 60 days. And the Indian pharmaceutical industry is making that change. Earlier, we were manufacturing multiple products for exports at lower than the standard batch sizes. Now, companies have shifted to getting policy decisions in place so that they can have full batch sizes being manufactured, and there would be a timeline within which it would have to be sold off and the demand would be generated for it. And this is a major change towards efficiency, and this is also a major change reflective of the times of cash flow crunch that is expected. Please note that as on today in India, apart from Glenmark, I would assume, most companies, most listed companies are cash flow positive to such an extent that they do not have any debt. If you've raised debt as a pharmaceutical company, it's probably for inorganic growth. For example, in the last quarter, Torrent raised debt because it was in talks to take over Cipla. Also, it was speculated. Now, if you have any debt other than inorganic growth, I would really be surprised as to why is that. Because the Indian pharmaceutical industry is that profitable and we are able to make that much of a cash flow. The next part that people should look into in terms of a cost reduction framework is negotiating contracts. Please note that the entry of China back into the global market as an API player has led to reductions across the board. And they are going to continue manufacturing APIs even if it hits rock bottom and below. So it is best that we take future contracts. It is best that we negotiate with our vendors, and between every consignment that we found during a 5-month period, the price of paracetamol reduced each and every time from the same vendor. Now this is between the period of March to August this year, and we expect a similar kind of an effect to happen as soon as the Russia war ends, because Russia is currently providing a lot of energy at discount to China. The opposite of that is going to happen as soon as Russia starts supplying gas and other items to Europe. Now, if that happens, China's cost of procurement goes up, your API prices will go up. And this is where getting into future contracts today and making sure that you have future contracts for your API supplies when the prices are at rock bottom is very important. Now, that was all on the policy side. Let's talk a little on the tactics that you can do. All of these are tactics that you can implement in individual cost centers, not even in your company. At individual cost center level, you can find projects for Six Sigma. At individual cost centers, you can have elimination of items. At individual cost centers, you can hold down and pay increases later. All of these are ways and means in which you will reduce your cost. The question is, what is a strategic cost versus a non-strategic cost? And the reason you need to ask this question is because everything should be driven by sales. The biggest difference between promoter-driven companies and professionally managed companies is that promoter-driven companies would be driven by sales. Professionally driven companies would be driven by R&D or regulatory concerns. A fine balance is needed across both. And if you have that fine balance, the finance department can add a lot of value through cost reductions. Now, let's get quickly into what has driven pricing for the Indian domestic players and the domestic market. Now, between 1987, or actually 1979 to 2012, we had a cost plus pricing regime. Cost accountants were very happy. They were very important people for the entire pharmaceutical industry. And we were doing everything on a cost plus basis. In 2012, the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Policy had come out, and it replaced Schedule 1, which was basically 78 bulk drugs, with the National List of Essential Medicines. Now, the reason I've not written National List of Essential Medicines 2011 is because Schedule 1 gets replaced every time NLM is revised. So we had National List of Essential Medicines 2011, then 15, and now 22. So today, if you ask me what is Schedule 1 or what are the price control products of the country, they are the National List of Essential Medicines 2022 list. So that is an important thing to note. Second, there will only be a control on prices of formulations and not bulk drugs. This was a very important paragraph put into the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Policy. And this was very important from the perspective of moving from bulk drugs to formulations as the base of control. And this will also be very important when you move on to medical devices and you look to promote manufacturing of medical devices in India. The next part of it is market-based pricing. So there was a complete migration from cost-plus pricing to market-based pricing. And this is again going to be challenged when we come to medical devices. Because when medical devices and integrated devices come in, there is a lack of market-based data. You do not have an IQVIA, you do not have an AIOCD AVAX available to you to give you the pharma track report, which is basically the information of every brand for every composition being sold in India today. Now, that data is not available for medical devices, and which is why getting market-based data is not possible. And if you do not have market-based data, there is no methodology for implementing, or there is no capability for implementing market-based pricing. The last part is that from liberalization or from 1991, the constant fear, actually from 1979, the constant fear had been, how do we protect our own? How do we protect the small scale industries? How do we protect the smaller players? In 2012, for the first time, the government came out and said, the smaller players have had a good run. They don't need protection anymore. If they are competitive enough, they will thrive. And that is exactly what has happened. Today, as I said earlier, MNCs have stopped manufacturing in India. There are very few MNCs that continue to manufacture products in India at a very high level. Small scale industries have actually grown on to become your medium scale and large scale industries. Today, the biggest manufacturer of topical forms are ointments, creams, solutions. Across the globe, not just in India, across the globe, the biggest manufacturer of topical forms is NQ Ethicals. When this policy came out, NQ Ethicals was a small scale industry. Today, it's one of the biggest players in the world. And that is the impact that free market has had on not only the pharmaceutical industry, but also pricing for the pharmaceutical industry. Now, the second question that comes in with pricing control is, what is the criteria for inclusion of a drug as price controlled? And this is what the government of India follows. So whenever people come out and argue, in India, it's very difficult to do business in pharma because everything is price controlled. Everything is not price controlled. If you go by market share, only 20% of the market cap is under price control, 80% is outside price control. B, that 20% is identified by a thorough investigation. In the year 2021, there was a committee formed of 400 clinical practitioners under the guidance of the DGHS. And they sat down, looked at individual drugs within their therapies and commented on affordability, availability, overall cost of therapy. To give you an example here, metronidazole, or what is widely known as Metrogyl, is available at say 4 rupees a packet. Compare that to the other two dizoles that are there, onidazole and trinidazole. The price is almost 2x or 4x. Now, why did onidazole and trinidazole remain outside the purview of price control, whereas metronidazole was included? That's basically the overall cost of therapy. The exact same thing is with respect to availability. Rosuvastatin is the highest selling statin in terms of value. Atorvastatin is the highest selling statin in terms of volume. Atorvastatin continues to be under price control. Rosuvastatin is outside price control. So the government did not go out on a whim and say every statin is under price control. They looked at what is the criteria. They looked at what is the affordability criteria. They looked at what is the availability of the drug. They looked at how many players of the drug are there in the market, and they compared it to the disease burden, and then compared the overall cost of therapy. The overall cost of therapy on a market base will obviously be lower for atorvastatin, and that's why atorvastatin is scheduled. The last part, fixed dose combinations or more than one API in a medicine is usually not preferred unless it has a clinical advantage. So to give you another example here, amoxicillin as a standalone product is covered. Amoxicillin plus clovenic acid as a fixed dose combination is covered, but clovenic acid as a standalone API is not covered, because clovenic acid as a standalone API is less bioavailable to a product to a patient than amoxicillin plus clovenic acid. Along with additions, we also had deletions in the NLEM compared to the earlier list. And these were products which are either banned in India, or there was a concern with their safety profiles, or the new drug of a better efficacy and more favorable safety and accessibility is available. So there was a product called interferon 2A. We spoke of biosimilars earlier and the difficulty in creating biosimilars. Well, there was another product called sofosbuvir, which came into the market. It was a new chemical entity, and sofosbuvir took over the entire market of interferon 2A. So today, interferon 2A, which was earlier a scheduled product, is no longer a scheduled product, is deleted from the list of essential products, and sofosbuvir has taken its place. And this is the manner in which Indian regulators are keeping up with what should be under price control and what should not. The next is if a disease is not of a particular burden in India. Had NLEM been released in 2020, which is 5 years from 2015, we would have been forced to comment on COVID as an essential, as a big disease burden in India. The reason to delay NLEM by 2 years nearly was to make sure that no short-term disease becomes a part of NLEM. While we did have certain products of NLEM, in NLEM, which are used for COVID, the entire focus was not on COVID anymore. And that is what was required for creating a future-looking policy. Now, I'll not get into the general consideration for NLEM and the specific issues. These are issues which are fairly technical and that have been argued upon pretty well. Let's look at the last two parts here. Okay, and this is not a part of the presentation, but what I would like to comment on is where are we going ahead and what are the best practices with respect to the pharmaceutical industry as a company. If you are a company and you're not focused on sales and regulatory, that is a big red flag. If you are a company that is not commenting on policy, that's basically saying somebody else will take my life decisions for me. If you are a company that is not actively engaged in looking after what are the key judgments around the pharmaceutical industry, you are also going to be at a loss. So on the 8th of November 2023, exactly 30 days ago, the Delhi High Court came out with an order which is a landmark judgment because step-by-step illustrations were given of the various kinds of price increases that are permitted for non-price control products in India. And two of the biggest takeaways were, A, if you have waited for a period of 12 months, you will not be penalized if your product price has only increased by 10%. If it increases by greater than 10%, you are eligible for a penalty, but only for the period that you have actually overcharged. You do not miss out on your next 12 months price increase just because you had made a mistake in the previous year. The second most important part, if I take a price increase of 5%, I am no longer eligible to take another 5% increase in the next 12 months. I need to maintain that price for a period of 12 months. These are judgments that are available in public domain and that are widely circulated across the pharmaceutical industry. And these are things that we need to be up to speed with. The other things we need to be up to speed with are regulations. If you are in a medical device company, please make sure that if you have a class C or a class D device based on the risk pattern, they are registered and applied for in case of imports or manufacturing licenses before March 2023. If you do not have a valid license, your sales will cease. It will not be that you cannot manufacture more or import more. Your existing stock will have to be recalled till such time that you do not get an approval from CDSCO. So these are important regulatory aspects that you are supposed to look into. If I were to talk of the best companies today, they are not growing with only ethical sales or only generic sales or only diagnostics. These are companies that are playing across the field in multiple domains. Their visibility is high, but most important is their engagement with patients. Gone are the times where you could have an engagement with only the doctors and you would ensure that the doctor will prescribe something. Today, Patients rely more on Google while making their procurement decisions, I should say their health decisions, than they do on their own doctors. And this is something that is going to be both an advantage, more importantly, a big disadvantage going forward. Secondly, there are many companies that are actively coming up with an online-only platform for their medicines. Now, that would have been unheard of 3 years back. But since COVID, we've understood that you don't really need to be in the same locality, or you don't really need to have the same vendor to deliver medicines to you every time. Till the time you are getting a good benefit in terms of price, that is more than adequate. Till the time this is happening, you will need to see a lot of changes with respect to quality. Now, let's look at what quality means for the pharmaceutical industry and the best practices for it. Mankind goes everywhere and they keep on commenting that we have got our plants which are DFM approved. That is basically a play on stating that they are following certain amounts of quality. If you look at sitagliptin, which was a molecule that went off patent, many players tried to get into sitagliptin. Almost 20 players launched sitagliptin products. MSD definitely lost market share. They were the primary innovators, Merck Sharp and Dohme. The market share was gained predominantly by Sun and by Torrent. And the reason they were able to gain this is because both of them were able to come out to doctors, come out to patients and say, we manufacture our own products, we maintain good high quality standards. The biggest detriment to the pharmaceutical industry today in India is the resounding news around quality issues. If you look at day before yesterday's data, it showcases 76 companies have been blacklisted or have been issued show cause notices by CDSCO for their cough syrups. The actual number is over 300. Let that sink in. Over 300 manufacturers of cough syrups in India have had show cause notices for non-compliances. This is a risk-based investigation that CDSCO has undertaken. Now, I do not know if all 300 of those are at fault. I do not know how many of them are fault at maintaining documentation versus actual product quality. But the fact is, quality needs a bigger say in the Indian pharmaceutical industry. It is the only way that we will be able to compete in regulated markets. It is the only way that we will be able to compete with, well, let's face it, China and Vietnam, which are our biggest competitors, China, Vietnam, and Malaysia. And it is the only way in which we will be able to move from branded generics, a term that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, to generics, just generics. There's no need for the term generics or branded generics, just generics. Now, doctors will not be able to prescribe paracetamol instead of Dolo. Doctors will not be able to prescribe ibuprofen instead of Brufen till the time they are assured of quality being maintained across the board by all pharmaceutical manufacturers. And the more you think about it, it's the smaller players who will benefit by increasing their quality for two reasons. One, if branded generics go out, all of a sudden marketing muscle is no longer a play in making sure that your product is selling. Now it is going to be about distribution, it's going to be about supply chain, it's going to be about being available to the patient. And those are things that smaller players can compete with, while the bigger players might actually struggle at. Because if you look at the entire scenario today in the Indian pharmaceutical market, the only reason the bigger players keep on getting bigger is by brand acquisitions. The only reason smaller players have started exiting the market is because they are not able to retain sales. They are able to make sales, they are not able to retain sales. And that's where, if you talk to or if you go through each and every investor report in the pharmaceutical industry, the common comment by everybody is, we will grow in acute, we will grow in chronic. Why do they want to grow into the acute and chronic businesses? Because these are the only two where you can retain a customer. Everywhere else, if I am an FDC or if I am a Wallace, I will go out and try to sell you electrolyte and Volite every season. If you don't want to have that competition every season at every retailer, then you need to develop some retention. And quality is the only thing that can lead to retention. Service is the only thing that can lead to retention. So have a look at this. The Indian pharmaceutical industry has done a fantastic job by commenting on and contributing to the economy contributing to public health, and contributing to availability of drugs not only in India but also the rest of the world. And when I say the rest of the world, I mean everywhere other than the regulated markets. You go to any corner of the world, you will find an Indian pharmaceutical there, and that is the power of the Indian pharmaceutical industry, and we need to harness that. We have developed the reach, we've developed the geographical reach. We now need to make sure that we are able to provide better care products and provide better quality. With that, thank you, and I'll also share that I've shared 2 additional slides on what registered medicinal practitioners submissions you need to make and what questions should you be able to answer if you are a cost accountant and in the pharmaceutical industry going forward. Thank you everyone. I invite the administrators for any questions that might have come in.
Thank you so much, sir. A detailed presentation, especially on the recent trends. Now, the first question is from Mr. Dilip Batija. According to you, what needs to be done to provide medicines to the public at a reasonable rates? Measures from the company side and measures from the government side.
I don't think from the company side you will find these measures, let me be very honest. What will happen is that there will be, no company would reduce its price if it's a monopoly. Okay. The only way this would work is if the government comes up with either a market which is feasible for multiple players to enter in and provide alternatives that will drive the price down, or alternatively the government targets the key people who are making money, and unfortunately even today it is the middlemen. If you look at generics or the unbranded sales in India, the average trade margin is over 40%, whereas in the branded or the ethically marketed products, it is only 36%, or it is restricted to 36%, which is 20 plus 10 plus 4 for a super stockist. And if you go to hospitals, there is no bottom. You can have as much as 2000% margins there. So my suggestion is, or rather my understanding is, that from the government side, trade margin rationalization will be the biggest hammer that you can put to prices. The second part that I spoke of at the end is, if you get quality in, so that all paracetamols manufactured in India are of a particular grade, only then would I be, as somebody who's from the pharmaceutical industry, be able to take a paracetamol without looking at the branding. Till such time that I know that the quality standards are not the same for everyone, I will be going to my favorite brands, and that's where prices go for prices are not comparable anymore.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Mr. Chaudhary Rakesh. So, new pharmaceutical reporting standard and pharmaceutical transcription codes are required from the government of India. So, what is your thoughts on this?
So, this is exactly what I started with. In fact, this is the first point regarding barcoding that I had in my slides. I am very happy with this because it's something that we've anyways been doing for exports. Okay, for majority of the exports, we anyways have barcoding, we have transcription standards. Now, the issue in here is, how do you identify counterfeits? That is the biggest issue in India today when it comes to transcription codes. The second is, when you're looking at reporting standards, we'll not really be able to look at reporting till the time you're not able to do digitalization. We are still in the process of it. Sugam has been a welcome increase, but the state still does not communicate to the center in terms of their regulatory. They're still all reporting into the DCGI, but they don't communicate with each other. DCGI asks me for prices of all formulations to be uploaded in Sugam. NPP asks me to upload the same prices again in IPDMS. And again, I need to update the same prices in IceGate when I'm importing a product at the customs. So this is the amount of lethargy, or I can say multiple items that I need to report. Pharma, I think, is by far the most heavily regulated industry in the world, right? And I do not believe that we will be able to get around these standards. New standards are needed, but those new standards are needed for the new age, for the future, not for what are the problems of today. And that's probably where you will find that the new national healthcare policy is being proposed. This policy was out for stakeholder consultation for the entire month of November. It was proposed on the 30th of October till the 30th of November, and all industry associations, NGOs, and various stakeholders such as DGHS have commented on it. So I would say wait for now. The opportunity to comment on it is gone, but we may get another one sometime in the future. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. The next question, the Indian pharma industry, any plans to enter into the health solutions based on organic material-based medicines instead of inorganic material-based medicines? So the source for this question is based on the imbalances in diet, and the thoughts are your cause.
I will need to ask for I'll need to ask for forgiveness. I'll be slightly biased here. My wife is in the same field, and she's developed a organic food-based powder. The important thing to note in here is when you're looking at diet, when you're looking at nutrition, when you're looking at counteractions, you're looking at prevention rather than cure. For cure, you basically need inorganic materials to come in. If I have somebody with a B complex deficiency, taking B complex from berries will never be adequate. The bioavailability is restricted. That's where an injection comes in place. If I have osteoporosis, taking a vitamin D injection is the only way my body will be able to absorb so much of calcium and vitamin D3. There is no other opportunity for me. So getting away from inorganic material is very difficult, at least looking at current sciences. Organic material by default are in a complex form, and they are not in a isolated form. And because they are in a complex form, that's where you will need to have a lot more of organic material and have the opportunity or have the option of more issues coming into the fore by a complex material. On the flip side, if bioavailability of the organic material is proven, then its adoption will be much faster. I think that is a risk so far, but if it can be done, it will be great.
Sir, a good question.
What is guidance note on internal audit of the pharmaceutical industry? Yes, the Institute of Cost Accountants has come up with a guidance note twice, once in 2014, once in 2021. Fortunately or unfortunately, I was a contributor in both, and we have gone ahead and set out what are the various checkpoints, what are the methods, what are the various tractions that you need to look into as an internal auditor of the pharmaceutical company to get into the technicalities of pharma, in addition to just looking at the voucher entries and looking after the financials. So every aspect related to the pharma industry, whether it is quality, whether it is regulatory, whether it is pricing, whether it is cost, obviously, and whether it is manufacturing practices, all of them have been compiled together. And I will not say anything good about this because it's my own my own writing, but feel free to critique it and write back to me if you find anything that I've missed out.
Yes, sir. But both of us were in the Internal Audit Standards Board when this guidance note was released, and maybe we need to update with the recent regulatory framework. If it has not been updated in 2021, maybe certain questions or certain legal requirements are required to be updated. I think otherwise we have an updated standard on the internal audit, which is very comprehensive and exhaustive. So it is available for download in the Institute website. So, sir, apart from this, I find a lot of praises from our past president M. Gopalakrishnan, sir. Excellent presentation. So, Mr. Kailash Pathak said excellent session. So, and Mr. Rao, in-depth insight has been given through the last 5 days presentation. So, I think our purpose of this MII committee under the chairmanship of TCA sir has served this purpose for the 5 days program. So, over to the organizers for the valedictory session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your precious time and valuable inputs. Now I request Mr. CMA Rakesh Shankar Ravisankar sir to present the summary report of this 5 days program.
So I take immense pleasure in presenting the summary of the 5 days proceedings. We started on 1st December 2023, the inaugural session with the in absentia wishes from our president, Shri Ashwinji Dalwadi, and CMA Vibhuti Bhushan Nayak, Vice President of the Institute, and Dr. S. Padmavathi, Principal of the college. And we had Mr. Hariharan Ramamurthy, the All India Vice President of Laghu, Udyog, Bharati, who addressed on the various advancements of the MSMEs in the pharmaceutical sector. It was inaugurated by our council member and chairman of MII committee, CMA TCA Srinivasa Prasad. The first day session was handled by CMA V. Krishna Kumar, Vice President, Finance and Accounts, Malladi Drugs and Pharmaceuticals Limited, where he set the tone for the entire 5 days proceedings on the introduction to pharma industry. The day 2, on 2nd December, Saturday, we had CMA Subhashit Chakraborty, Vice Chairman, EARC of the Institute, delivering the keynote address, and CMA Rakesh Shankar Ravisankar, the Executive Member of Chennai Laghu Udyog Bharati, delivering a special address. And we had Dr. A. Hamsavel, a quality personnel and from the R&D of Malladi Drugs and Pharmaceuticals Limited, delivering an excellent session on operational excellence in pharma, where he dealt on the new innovations, research and development. And on 3rd December, Sunday, we had CMA Panduranga Rao, Vice Chairman of Southern India Regional Council, delivering the keynote address. And we had Shri R. Ravi Kumar, Chief Technical Officer, Govman Pharma, a unit of KP Manish Global Ingredients Private Limited, where he stressed more on the operational excellence and quality and cost excellence. He set the tone for day 4. So due to the inclement weather and the heavy downpour in Chennai, we had to reschedule the session on 4th and 5th to 6th and 7th. On 6th December, the day 4, CMA Rakesh Yadav from Jaipur, the Vice Chairman of NIRC, delivered his keynote address on the cost governance and the importance of the cost governance in the pharmaceutical industry. We had CMA N. Ramaskanda, cost accountant from Bengaluru, who highlighted on various formats on the best practices in cost governance. So how to derive on the machinery rate or labor utilization, how to calculate the various heads of cost, in particular for the pharmaceutical industry. And today on the day 5, we had CMA Mihir Vyas, the Secretary of Western India Regional Council, delivering his keynote address on the best practices in pharma. And we had Sukrut Mehta, who has delivered a very lucid presentation on the best practices in pharmaceutical industry. In total, for the 5 days, we have around 2,500 participants. The today's data is yet to be updated. So this program has been a very grand success. Thank you, Shri Shankarlal Sundarbai Sashun Jain College and their Sashun Alliance with Industry, and Laghu Udyog Bharati and the Institute of Cost Accountants of India for this 5 days program on powering pharma in pharmaceutical industries. Thank you. Over to TCA Srinivasa Prasad sir for the valedictory address.
Good evening. First of all, thanks to the organizers, SS, Jain College and Laghu Udyog Bharati, and to our President, Vice President, Council members who have reposed faith on me in this committee, and all the speakers, and especially a special thanks to CMA Rakesh Shankar Ravisankar. This was a new attempt by us to have an industry-specific 5-day program online, so that if you really look at it, it must be a 1 full day calendar day, say about 8 hours program. So we thought of a template when we discussed that we will have an overview of an industry, then the operational excellence of that industry, then the quality and how does it impact the industry, and the cost. In the 4th day, we thought of having a cost governance. 5th day on the best practices in the industry, so that everybody gets benefited. And as one of the members of our institute was communicating to me, that even a person who do not know anything about this industry, he was also benefited, and the persons who are in the know of the industries, they were also benefited, and they were able to give additional points by way of even questions, so that the speakers were able to answer. It's really a very good experience for us, and really a learning sessions to all of us in the institute. And we will be doing more and more sessions of these kind of things. And as I told you, it's a very, very good joint and a team effort of Laghu, Udyog, Bharati, the SS Jain College, and our institute. And we thank all the members who had come and participated, and also all others, faculty, students, and others who took keen interest and joined in the YouTube. Though we were only a very few people on the studio who can intervene or ask questions in between or make observations, others were able to do it through the chat mode, which was very, very ably handled by Shri Rakesh. So overall, we are really thankful for the sincere efforts by all the organizers, and we hope to continue this journey with more industries in our kitty, so that everybody gets benefited. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, sir.
sir. Thank you, sir, for summarizing the core message of organizing the Industry Connect and Knowledge Enrichment Program in such a wonderful manner. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this memorable session. First and foremost, I thank the President, Vice President, CMA Council member, Shri Srinivasa Prasad sir, and I also thank the guest speakers of today's session. My heartfelt thanks to Mr. CMA Rakesh Shankar Ravisankar sir for his contribution, efforts, and guidance for this 5 days Industry Connect Knowledge Enrichment Program. I extend my gratitude to the management, principal, vice principal, and staffs of Sri Shankar Lal Sundarbai Shashun Jain College for Women for collaborating with ICMAI for this program. Last but not the least, I thank all the participants for your constant support in making this program a resounding success. With this, we have come to the end of the program, and I request all the participants to fill in the feedback link. Once again, I thank you all.